I ever get married? You know, that's a good question right there. Will I ever? I ask that question myself. You know, because in our society, especially in the United States of America, there are, boundaries and stipulations and labels, and there's so much, and I'm sure it's in lots of cultures, but everyone's idea of when you should get married and how and all of that stuff is different from depending on where you live, right? So, for me, during the time that I came up, I was 28 years old when I got married. So it was like, that was a little late, all right? I was a career woman, I was whatever. But when my mother, got married, if you weren't married by 18, okay, all right. Earlier on in our culture, women were getting married at 12 and 13 and 14. Many of you are watching me around the world. You're saying that's exactly it, the way it is here. But in the U.S. now, it's not uncommon for someone to get married for the very first time at 45, and possibly as we see women, as they become professionals and they're in their careers, it's not uncommon for us to see, women getting married much later. And so, the question becomes, will I ever get married? And as I speak to you today, I'm speaking with no notes, but I'm going to speak as I believe the Lord gives this to me, because I really, need to enlighten people about a lot of things, okay? The first thing is that we have to be really, really careful about defining our lives based off mores, norms, and expectations from others. Now, depending on where you live around the world, it's going to be difficult. Okay, it may be a little easier here in the United States, but nevertheless, there's still pressures. You have pressures that are spoken, and you have pressures that are unspoken. So, when you get to the unspoken are just as much pressure as the spoken. Okay, because there is an unspoken sometimes where when people see that you're not married by X years, is there something wrong with you? Okay. And good morning. And leaders, make sure you greet everyone for me and let them know what we're doing here. So yeah, you may feel that because I have not reached a certain barrier in life, that there's something wrong with me, right? Because there are unspoken laws. There are unspoken laws. We don't say it, but we say, oh, girl, if you ain't married by 65 and you ain't never been married, something wrong. And when I was coming up, so many people, that was that trend of people having babies, out of wedlock without, actually being married. And so I didn't have any children. And when I met my husband, he didn't have any children. And yet we looked at each other. You don't have any children? Wow. It's amazing what we make normal and abnormal. And we tend to do it based off a law that a man will put down. Okay. And we will only change it if a man changes that law. Yes. But the law that we really should be going according to, and listen, it doesn't matter really what your religion is per se, but the law that we really should be adhering to is the laws of God, because they never change. I don't care what you do, they never change. We change things, but the laws of God never change, the consequences, all of those types of things. So I laid all of that down to say, because you're saying, will I ever get married? Is that if you are confined to what man's law is for you, you're going to be entrapped, ensnared, imprisoned. And when you get the imprisonment mentality, okay, we're going philosophy right now. My listeners, my viewers, all of you are PhD people. Okay, you are PhD people, but I got to get you to think first, because if we don't think about it, we just start acting and reacting, and we're chasing our tails and don't even know why we're acting and reacting. But when you get the imprisonment mentality, You believe you're locked up. You believe that you're helpless and hopeless. That's right. You believe that that there is no way out, that if you don't go through this gate, there's no other gate to get out of. And how many of you know that in a house, there's more than one door? That in a house, there's more than one exit. Because you don't have to exit just out the door. You can go out the window. Okay. Are you thinking with me right now? Are you thinking with me right now? Because you don't have to just go out of the door. If you decided to do that, there's more than one door. But you can also go out of a window. You can go out of the crawl space. And you said, what has all this got to do with will I ever get married? Because if you are locked into your norms and your mores, they're important. But if you're locked into it, Beefy, if you're locked into it, there are rules and regulations that don't necessarily match with the laws and rules of God, then you will have an imprisonment mind and you will lock yourself into one box. Now you said, what does that mean to me? What it means to you, as I break it down to you, what it means to you is that if you believe in your small area of living, and we all have a small area of living, all of us, if you believe that in this small area, this radius of where I go, work, school, home, church, I hope you listen, Beefy. If you only believe in this area, that nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm not going to get married, I'm not going to be able to do this, or that, or the other, you have the imprisonment mentality. Where my PhD people are. If you're my PhD people, could you put hashtag PhD people? Because this is what we do here on this scope. You got to think, will I ever get married? If you have the imprisonment mentality, listen to me now. Don't disappear. Don't disappear on me, because this is about to get good here. Because what happens is, listen, Sarah, Elder Carmen King, Amy, I'm telling you, Afrosco, I'm telling you, Catchy, what happens is, now, you know I love black men. I can't help but love them, okay, because I'm African American too, all right? I love my people. But what happens is sometimes we say, well, I can't find anybody. But where have you looked? Because you know what? The truth of the matter is, many of us go to work, school, home, and church. If that's you, say that to me. Work, school, home, and church. And some of us do less than that. Some of us may do a little bit more. We got, the little clubs or something like that we're part of. And listen, that's no shame, right? Because that's what we do, right? That's exactly what we do. But then listen, my mother gave me some great advice one time, because when you have exhausted that spectrum, that space in your life, you know all the men there, you know all the women there, you know their cousins and all, you know those people there, and you've exhausted that. And there's no connection there to go further in any type of relationship with the people that are in your sphere. You begin to say, will I ever get married? You begin to say, nobody wants me, nobody loves me. You begin to say, is there something wrong with me? But here's something powerful my mother said to me some years ago when that happened to me. Now, let me give you the history. I have great relationships with men. Wonderful, wonderful relationship with my father, who's now with the Lord. Great relationship with my brother. And Mark, can you call me back, okay? Great relationship with my husband. I have 2 sons, one 21, one 16. I grew up as a tomboy. Awesome relationship with men, many of them who still follow me in the wise courtship, family movement, philosophy, etc. Okay? So great relationships with them, but have been so close with them that I felt like they were my brothers, and my sphere began to shrink. And here's the powerful statement my mother said. As educated as that woman was, she didn't drop educated knowledge, okay? She dropped some wisdom. And she simply said, change your circles. Can somebody put that in the chat box? Change your circles. Because when she said those 3 words, it literally changed my life. Because I went from, will I ever get married, to having several marriage proposals. Okay, I had a couple of them before then. But the change your circle thing did that. Now, what's so spectacular about changing your circle? Because when you change your circle is really representing your sphere, your area, your background, what you do. Now, I don't say quit your job. I didn't say that. I didn't say change your church. I didn't even say pick up your house and move. But what I am saying is that you want to change your circle in the way that, what are you doing for entertainment? What are you doing for extracurricular activities? What clubs and organizations are you part of? Do you even drive? Here we go. Buckle your seatbelts. Do you even drive a different way to work?